Hello and welcome to This Week in Cars. This week we have our first car reviews and boy do we have a treat for you. Standing behind us, this is the 2022 Kia Niro EV. So Justin, what do you think about the exterior styling? Starting with like the rear quarter panel that we're looking at.
I think the rear, like 3/4, is probably the best angle of this car.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I mean, it looks pretty unoffensive. It's pretty plain. It's definitely not bold styling, I think, compared to like some of the other like Korean cars we've seen, like from Hyundai and Kia, with a lot more angles. This one's pretty conservatively styled. I'd say.
For the Niro, this is effectively their one of their earliest EV offerings, full EV offerings, and this is like the electric version of the gas Niro. So this is a full effectively just a conversion. There's not too much styling changes from the rear part of the car. Yeah. So now we move to the front side of the Niro. And the biggest difference that we can see from the gas version is that they blocked off the grille in a typical EV fashion. And furthermore, there's also the electric charging port here. So, are you open it?
Oh, no, I thought it was locked.
Oh no.
Oh, I just
you just have to push harder. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I think most EVs that are not from Tesla, their charging port's in the front. So the Niro is no different for that. Anything to add about the front side of this car?
From your experience, does having a charging port in the front or the back in the Tesla, like which way do you think is better?
I think there's benefits of both. In my experience, because the Tesla supercharger network, for example, is designed for you to charge from the back, that's fine. You have to back in every time, and some people who aren't really good at parking struggle with that. But if for this case, you just drive right up to the charging station. And
I think it's more suitable for Americans who aren't used to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Back into parking spots.
But yeah, in your garage though, just like set up your charging port, so it doesn't matter too much whether it's in the front or the back.
Yeah.
So
I think for me personally, I don't like how the grille is blocked off, but I think that's a trend with most EVs today, since they don't need...
It's all for aerodynamics.
Yeah, they don't need much cooling. And actually, like, we opened the hood and it has the full-size radiator from the gas Niro. Was that all for the front?
I think so.
Okay.
Anything else you want to add for exterior styling?
No, I just don't like the front that much.
Yeah. I think exterior styling overall for this car is it's just unoffensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's I guess the other interesting thing to add is that this car gives a crossover appearance. However, in terms of size, it's actually closer to a wagon. When parked next to a Subaru Outback, it's the same height, same width, same length.
Yeah, especially when you have the lift back open, you feel like it's a lot lower than what you're used to with like other crossovers.
Right. Yeah. So it's under the crossover segment, but I feel like it's probably closer to wagon size, which depends on whether or not you like this height. I think it's fine, but some people want a taller ride height, so this might not be the most suitable option.
Yeah, I think it's more of an American thing. Like, Europeans love their wagons.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be just fine with this.
This is good for a European market too.
Yeah.
Kia has like a European division, right?
I don't know.
Okay. It doesn't matter. We're Americans. Let's move on into the interior to talk about the interior bits. All right. Inside the Kia Niro EV, how do you feel about this interior cabin?
It's comfortable.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to note is that, like, I guess for me, coming from like a Tesla, there's so many traditional buttons, which is a welcome difference. You have like the normal start stop button or the power button. Your AC is all normal controls, physical controls. Your gear selector is a twist knob, which Might be confusing for some, but it's better than like the Honda's like push buttons, and it's also like it's physical, and that's very important.
I think like pretty much all of this should be shared with the gas Niro, right?
I think so.
Yeah, like even the gauge cluster, like you have 2 gauges. I think they just probably changed like the software to make it like show how much battery charge you have.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I think that's a benefit of it. It gives you the more traditional car feeling. So pretty much everything is the same, interior wise to the gas version.
You do have this charge like indicator on your dash that shows like how much charge you have and if you're charging. But that might be the only like hardware difference.
Probably.
Yeah.
In terms of, I wonder maybe that's probably used for like parking, maybe like parking sensors. I'm not sure. We haven't had a gas Niro to try out, but yeah, we could probably figure it out from photos or something. The other important thing to notice to talk about is the infotainment. So the interior touchscreen is a 10.25-inch navigation system. It comes with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, the most important things.
So I think it's important to note that this is not the base trim, but the EX trim.
Yes. The EV Niro only comes in EX and EX Premium, so you'll get all of these standard as this trim for the EV version. Yeah.
I like how the infotainment screen is like integrated within.
Right. It's not tacked on.
Yeah,
so...
it's not like a tablet like sticking out. Yeah, that's something I don't like.
And
but there is a lot of piano black.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
That's
center console,
something that Kia can improve on for sure.
Yeah, by the door handles. So, I think after about 8,000 miles, it's already looking pretty nasty.
Yeah,
a lot of piano black.
You can see all the attempts at cleaning it, but it doesn't really go away. It's just typical piano black. And there's also a Qi charger, which I think is very useful for most people. They just throw their phone in there and then leave it as is. But if you put your phone in with the Qi charger, you cannot keep it plugged in. I think that's I mean, to use there's no wireless Apple CarPlay, right?
Oh,
so
I mean, but
it's
then
a downside.
if you're
already plugged in,
so you won't just put your phone like this.
It'd be horizontal.
Yeah.
Anything else to note from the driver's seat?
No, this feels like a very traditional car. It doesn't scream EV at you at all.
Exactly.
Which is something that I think will make this more acceptable to like customers more used to like traditional cars. Like you have that eco-electric badge, but that's the only thing. Yeah.
Cool. Then let's move to the back seat and talk about some legroom. Yeah, in the back seats of the Kia Niro, I think in the back you start to notice more of the economy car feeling, like these hard plastics. It also still has the same piano black, but in terms of legroom, which is important, right, for people who are driving a bigger car of this size, I think it's very acceptable. You can sit behind yourself at 6 feet tall, right?
Yeah, almost 6 feet tall, and I still have some headroom up here.
Overall, like nothing too spectacular. Is this a cup holder?
Yep.
Yeah, I got 2 cup holders. And there's also vents, so that's useful.
Yeah. So I think we have like incandescent lighting, which is
cost saving.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for the back seat. Okay. Finally, this is probably the most important part for most people buying cars of this type, is the rear hatch space. So this rear hatch space is quite usable, but it does miss one thing, which is there is no spare tire. We're not sure if it comes standard or if it's an option, but I think for a car like this, you probably should have one.
But then you wouldn't stray too far. Like you won't go on road trips in the middle of nowhere. Right?
That's true. That's an EV thing.
You need to charge your car, so I think it's fine. Like for most people, they'll probably use this mode, like 90% city driving, maybe 10% road trip. But even then, you wouldn't go into like the mountains where you actually want a spare tire. So I think that's okay for this segment.
Yeah, no, let's fold down the rear seats to take a look at how that's like. It's a simple one-hand operation. It's not entirely lay flat, but I think if you want to fit like IKEA furniture in here, perfectly fine. Yeah.
Yeah, you can really see how it's not that high.
Yeah, this really emphasizes the wagon kind of feel to this, despite the crossover looks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, did we mention that these come with Harman Kardon speakers?
Yeah. Wow, Harman Kardon. That's a real premium sound company, you know.
Yeah.
I think it sounds okay. Nothing too mind blowing in terms of speakers, but you know, it's acceptable. Yeah. Cool. So let's move on to the mechanical bits, the goodies.
Yeah. Just pop the hood.
Yep. All right, under the hood of the Kia Niro EV, it comes with a fantastic plastic cover. But what are we looking at here, Justin?
It looks surprisingly non-EV. Like if you didn't see these orange like electrical conduits, it would look like a gas car.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we're looking at the permanent magnet motor up here. So typically in the front of most electric cars, there's usually like a frunk. But because this is like an adapted gas car, I feel like they didn't really have a place to stuff this motor.
Yeah, they just replaced the engine with the motor.
Pretty much.
And called it a day.
Well, I guess an engine is a motor, right? A motor is an engine. Technicality. Yeah, it also has the typical, I believe it's a car battery here.
Yeah, lead acid battery.
Yeah, probably to start the car.
Has a full-size radiator here, as we mentioned. Although half of it's not getting any airflow.
Right.
I think the radiator hoses aren't even hot.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even need them to kick in unless you're like really cooking.
Yeah, or it's a really hot day.
Yeah.
Not much else to see down here.
You got a real nice Kia Hyundai.
Yeah. You wouldn't even see that with the cover on.
No, I don't think anyone's...
How many people are going to take the cover off?
Only we would. Only people who, you know, are interested. But
we're not the target demographic, so no one's ever going to take that cover off.
Well, you always need a car that's the one that's reliable, right? To fix the project car, to go get parts for the project car. So this would be a contender. Cool. So not sure if you can see, but from here, this is where the battery pack is mounted. But that also gives us a view into the suspension. And our front suspension is the McPherson struts, and our rear is a multi-link setup.
Yeah, so you can very clearly see the battery packs kind of tacked on at the bottom.
Right, and I think that's probably one of the negatives of this car is that with the battery pack you get lower ride clearance, but it's not like anyone's going to take this off-road.
Yeah, exactly.
Or we could try it and see what happens.
You sure about that?
It is a rental after all. Should we take this car for a spin? Cool. All right, setting off in the Kia Niro.
Okay, let's not run over the cat.
Probably not a good idea.
That would not be a good idea.
Yeah, but as we're backing up, I think there's one thing to note is that it makes a go-kart, Mario Kart starting sound, which is projected outwards so everyone can hear it, to make sure everyone knows you're ready to race in the Kia Niro.
And then at slow speeds, when you're speeding up, you get the powering up, like whirring sound. Same with slowing down. I think that's pretty standard with EVs now.
It's standard, but in this car, I think it's slightly obnoxious, a little bit obnoxious.
And even in plug-in hybrids, like the Prius Prime, it's really loud.
Right. Yeah. So in this car, you have 4 drive modes. Eco Normal Sport, Eco Plus, um, which I guess if you're down to like 10 miles of range, you probably want to put on Eco Plus. Um, would you say that in sport mode there's like any perceptible difference? I think like maybe like throttle response is a little bit stronger.
You do get more acceleration for the same like throttle angle. So if you're going at steady speed, you change to sport mode, you speed up.
Mm-hmm. This car does have regenerative braking, 4 different levels of it, and they're controlled by paddle shifters, which I think is a manufacturing afterthought. You know, they figured if we're gonna make paddle shifters for normal cars, we might as well just throw them on this car and then have it control something else entirely.
Yeah, so the paddle shifters control how much regen you have. So basically, you can kind of change regen on the fly, but is that really useful when your brake pedal actually does the whole regen?
I don't know. I think like in my experience with this, the way Tesla has tuned their like regenerative braking is much better than this one. I think like this one is strong, but for one, it's not even particularly linear, and then two, it doesn't really come to a full stop when you have it even on the high setting. So I think that's like nitpicking it, but it does affect daily driving in this case.
Yeah, one other thing to note is that the steering is very light at slow speeds. Like parking lot speeds, it's like you can steer with one finger pretty much. But then at higher speeds, it starts to become very strongly self-centering actually. So it really wants to go back to going straight.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's like it's a trait of like front-wheel drive cars, as is a front-wheel drive architecture. So it just likes to kind of center itself when you apply throttle.
Not even apply throttle, just going around a curve.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, so I think this car rides like fairly soft actually for the most part. You know, going over potholes, it won't beat you up, that's for sure.
Or railroads.
Yeah. However, like it does like in terms of you think that a car that rides this soft is probably like too it would have a lot of body roll, right? But this car, I think, in terms of handling for this like wagon crossover, you know, body style is actually pretty good. It's not like overly soft. You're not like wafting or wallowing over you know, turns and stuff like that. So, you know, I think the McPherson front helps a lot with that.
Yeah, I think the suspension tuning is it's pretty good. It's definitely not giving you too much body roll. I'm thinking it's probably tuned differently from the gas model, since like this one's probably a lot
More
heavier.
weight, right?
Like probably close to 1,000 pounds, right? Of batteries.
Right.
Yeah.
The gas version weighs up to 3,200 pounds, so it's going to be a 500-pound lighter car.
Wow.
But you know, in the corners, you know, I don't necessarily feel that weight as bad. Like I think like you know, then again, you're not driving this car like 9/10. But for something that weighs 3,800 pounds, it doesn't feel like too heavy. 0 to 60 is in 6.2 seconds, so it does pull for sure for a car of this category.
Oh yeah, and the low end torque is really strong, as for pretty much all EVs.
Right. As far as like noise levels goes, I think this car is definitely on the quieter side. You know, I think EVs, because of the lack of motor, they're usually quieter. But it's also that like I think recent cars, they've all really gotten good with body adhesives and like structural rigidity. So the noise levels in this car are like at speed on the highway, you know, it's all reasonable.
Yeah, I wonder if Kia's added any additional like noise reduction measures compared to the gas one, because like the gas engine masks a lot of noise, right?
Right.
But then you don't have that with electric motors, so I don't know if they added additional like sound dampening or something, but this seems really quiet.
So here on the highway, I want to talk about the lane keep assist and the adaptive cruise control. Um, so I would say like in terms of like lane keep and adaptive cruise, I think it does a really good job. Um, the one thing to note is that it kind of drifts like towards one side of the lane, but it doesn't like exit the lane. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
not
that bad.
very great at centering itself in a lane. But I think that's one common issue with a lot of these lane assist features in all cars today.
Right. Yeah. So for its adaptive cruise, you have like four different levels, four different distances um, from the car in front. Who do you think who do you think this car is for? Like the target demographic is for this car.
I think it's for the city commuter
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. Like most EVs, are like today they're essentially like city cars, right? Most of the benefits of EVs are from driving them in a city. Like you have charging stations everywhere. Um, it's a US, right?
Yeah.
And I think EVs are more efficient at lower speeds, go in the city, um, kind of like hybrids before.
Mm-hmm. But as we talked about earlier, this is also like quite a good commuting car too. Like
Oh yeah, definitely.
the low road noise or noise levels when driving this. You have like the lane keep and the adaptive cruise control. This that makes it like a really good like to and from work car. And then with the trunk space, you have some space to put things, carry furniture. So like this is the car for, like I said, the urban younger person. But at the same time, though, because this is a conversion from the gas counterpart, it retains a lot of the traditional uh, gas car qualities, like physical controls, manual, like start function. And for me, that I think that makes it interesting in that I think this is very easily a car that someone who has not had a electric car can pick up and drive, and that means you know this is also a good car for the older generation, like Gen X or even Boomers.
Oh yeah.
Right? Um, I think on the topic of the younger person who would consider this car, the main competition for this car, a full electric crossover, would be the Tesla Model Y. But so for most people who are considering, like, I think they would cross shop this, but considering that this car is cheaper than the Model Y, do you think the money you save would justify choosing this car over the Model Y?
Um, I guess it depends on how much importance you like place into like the technological advantages the Model Y has.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Model Y has a lot more tech features, right?
Yeah, and there's pros and cons of that, right? So you have one big tablet for the Model Y. You have like no physical controls at all, and I think it gives it a clean, minimal look, but it does make it like harder to adapt to, or like uh, if your touchscreen fails, like that's happened on my Tesla, like where I had to reboot the car, right? Then
Oh, you did?
yeah,
Wow.
not while I was driving, but like I had to stop and like reboot it. That gives like this is like the typical argument between physical controls over having everything integrated into the touchscreen. And we also know that physical controls is less distracting than the main having one big touchscreen, right? Especially when you're driving.
Mm-hmm.
So there's pros and cons of that. I think the main something that like would really draw people to the Model Y over this one is really just the Tesla brand.
Yeah, the Tesla brand has a lot more clout,
Right.
especially among the younger buyers.
Which is the target demographic of this car. So, yeah, the real question is, would that target demographic choose this over the Model Y? and the only, the biggest difference I think is the price savings, cost savings, right? Or rather, the biggest reason to choose this car over that is the price savings. That's the main benefit. Otherwise, like the Tesla, more tech, cooler, like clout, right? It has a lot more going for it.
Yeah. So two other differences I can think of is, like, I think Teslas are they have so much recognition everywhere. Like, everyone's heard of Tesla.
Right.
But if you talk about the Kia Niro EV, who has heard of it?
Yeah, the name of the Kia, or rather the brand of Kia, has been thoroughly ingrained. Or they're trying to shake off this image that they're an economy car, and they're I would say this car, like, it's very livable. It seems very well built, right? If you haven't been in one, you'd be surprised how good this car is, I would say. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been in a Kia. And I think I'm pretty impressed with, like, overall how well this car is put together.
What else was I gonna say?
And I think the other difference is that like, Teslas are pretty widely available now. Like, the production is pretty high, like, among all the Tesla factories. But I think for Kia, like, have they invested enough into like battery manufacturing where they can actually make this widely available and not just like a compliance car?
I don't think there's a supply issue with Kias. If there was suddenly a lot of people who wanted to buy this car, I think because Hyundai and Kia, share their manufacturing capabilities, are supported by the Korean government and all that, right? Like, I think they have the manufacturing bandwidth to support that kind of demand. That being said, I don't think the demand to buy this car is that much, though.
Yeah, definitely not today. I think Kia's trying to, like you mentioned, they're trying to shake off their old brand and probably create like a new type of brand for themselves with EVs. Like, this EV, this change from like gas cars to EVs is really giving them the chance to put a new brand out there.
I just remember the other major difference, the Tesla supercharger network. And as you've already seen, like, the convenience of the network, the Tesla superchargers are most everywhere. It makes road trips honestly feasible for Tesla cars, at least in depending on which state you're in. But for the Kia Niro EV, you're limited to you're not limited necessarily, but mainly you have the charge point stations. You have the Electrify America. Those are the two main providers of charging stations for non-Tesla EVs. And at the time of, I think, like, most recently, we've seen the comparison test from Car and Driver talking about the two systems, or rather the two, like the Tesla supercharger network and the normal charging network. And it's just that this other charging network for non-Tesla EVs is not necessarily there yet. There's a lot of, sometimes there's slow charging. There's a lot of charging stations that don't work. But this is just at the moment, I would say that in 5 years, we're going to be looking at a totally different picture, especially with so much, there's going to be a lot of development for charging stations in the near future, which is what we're going to talk about in our podcast. Shameless plug, hashtag check out our podcast.
So how fast can this, like, DC fast charge? Is it 150 kilowatts?
I know that the charging network. Are you talking about the Kia Niro itself? DC fast charge port 480 volts. 150 kilowatt electric motor.
Oh.
But
I guess it's 100 kilowatts fast charging. Yeah, I think that's one thing the Tesla has better.
But yeah, any final thoughts on this car? I think we've covered most of it.
It's a fine commuter. I wouldn't mind daily driving this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially this lets me go on the HOV lane. Can charge up at work. Save money on gas. But I don't commute to work, so this is not for me.